The following podcast contains strong language, adult themes, including gambling, and discussions around physical violence. Sounds great, doesn't it? But if you do think you are one of those people that may be offended by such things, discretion is advised. Or just, go and put Radio 4 back on. Right, we're live. Episode 3, Octagon Odds is back. We've got loads to look forward to this week, as well as look back at what we saw over the weekend, not just in the UFC and UFC Vegas 39, but also in the main event in Las Vegas, TYSON FURY versus DEONTAY WILDER III. And boys, we watched it together. Ross is here. George Hardy's back with us again. We watched it together and it was special, was it not?
Yeah, it was great. What a great watch. The whole night was great, really. Very exciting fight. Trilogy, obviously. Sort of closed the door on that, though, hadn't he? Closed the book.
Yeah, it was more than definitive, you'd say, wouldn't you think, George? I know you actually said to me on the Sunday that you were impressed with Wilder, more impressed certainly than you expected to be. Now that you've had a few days to digest that, do you stand by that still?
Yeah, it's the same as how I was impressed with Ortega against Volk, and you two kind of weren't. It was more like I appreciated. I mean, Wilder came in and gave it his all. He dropped Fury twice. He put an absolute shift in, and he stayed in there for as long as he possibly could, really. And he still had power in the later rounds. And I just thought he was going to get ran over this time from what I'd seen the last couple of times. And he did start to go Fury's way later on. But early on, it was a contest and Wilder was definitely present the whole fight. So, yeah, I'm still feeling like I'm quite impressed with Wilder. And he's gained a bit of a fan out of me just because of his heart. And obviously, Fury's just a beast, isn't he? And he's probably a generational talent. So it's hard to blame Wilder for losing to someone like that as well.
You mentioned a point there about gaining respect for someone. And I was probably with you in the fact that I don't think his game plan was necessarily bad. I think he jabbed well in the first round. He used those jabs to the body with the left to set up the big overhand right. And he definitely took the first round. I think that Wilder, if we'd have seen that for 12 rounds, would have been a problem for anyone. I think it very much went the way Fury expected it to go, in the sense that Fury was predicting, as soon as I punch him in the face, as soon as I hurt him, he's going to go back to the old game plan and just trying to land the big right hands, which really is how it played out. And you're right, he did land some big right hands, obviously, in round 4 when he had Fury down. But Ross, in terms of respect, how disappointing was it to hear that, afterwards, Fury and Wilder had this exchange in the corner, and the video came out with quite clear audio today, and Wilder kind of shook away his hand and said, I don't respect you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. I don't really know Wilder's reasoning. Not too sure why. I don't know if you guys know, but
I'll just chip in there with the reason. It's because he thinks that Fury cheated in the last fight. He's convinced that Fury cheated. Yeah, so he doesn't respect Fury because he believes that Fury cheated.
To be fair, yeah, some of the pictures are quite obvious that he's doing that, in my opinion. You can sort of see his knuckles, can't you, in that second fight, in like the middle, in the palm of his glove.
Give over.
What, do you disagree?
What, that Fury cheated in the second Wilder fight?
Well, have you not seen the pictures?
Yeah, pictures are so inconclusive, though, when you're talking about somebody punching and moving around at speed, and we're talking about a single still image. Let's bear in mind that Wilder's team watched Fury's gloves be wrapped, such as the rules in boxing. Like, they had every chance to inspect his gloves. And Fury's no cheat. I don't believe for a minute that he cheated in the Wilder fight, and it makes me lose respect for Wilder to hear him, accuse Fury, who is a great champion, and not only that, but also a great boxing man. He really respects the history and the traditions of the sport, and obviously he comes from a proud boxing family, and I personally cannot see any way in which he cheated.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But if you do look at the picture, there is a lump in the palm of his hand, which indicates it's his knuckle. And if it is, then it's a very big advantage, because imagine that hitting you as opposed to 12 ounce. What do you fighting?
Yeah.
So if it is true, then yeah, it's quite a big factor to consider. But nevertheless, I feel like they should have just shook hands at the end of it. Like they've put everything on the line, especially Wilder. Like he got absolutely gassed, didn't he? Like Fury, like leaning on him,
Yeah,
and just like gassing him out. And yeah, as George was saying, every credit to Wilder. He showed so much heart and determination. Yeah, I didn't really expect him to act like that at the end, but I guess he's either been a bit of a sore loser or he really does think that he got cheated out of that second fight.
yeah. For me, it's
just
definitely
his own reasoning.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the former. It feels like obviously he was beaten by the better man on the night. George, I want to get both of your feelings on this, but you first, George. I saw a tweet from, I think it was John Anik on the day after the fight, and it was something along the lines of, you know, UFC MMA will always be like my main love and my first love in that sense, and I'll always prefer it. But when boxing reaches the level that it did in the Wilder Fury fight, that it's just special and it's different to MMA, and it's special to me. It's on a par when you get those massive fights, you know, come off and they are as special as you are. What do you think it is about boxing that gives it that special feeling?
I've always seen it as in MMA is like a pure, historic way of fighting, and it's like a pure expression of a fight. Whereas boxing is more of a sport, because obviously you're just using your hands. You're not applying the rest of your body whatsoever. It becomes more of a game of chess and a game of slipping and countering. I know MMA is a lot like that as well, and it's getting more like that. But for me, boxing's always been more of like a game than MMA, and I think that's kind of what makes it a bit special, because it's two men playing a game. When you see people like, I mean, people like I said before, Fury's a generational talent. When you see that kind of stuff, it's exciting, no matter what sport it's in. Even if you're not a football fan, if you can see Messi do something crazy, it's impressive. And I think that is what the Wilder Fury fight. And I think you have got a bit of recency bias in that, saying that because obviously boxing's not been to the standard that MMA has for quite a while now. This big fight's come out of nowhere, and these guys seem to have had a crazy trilogy of 3 fights, and we haven't really seen that for a while in boxing. Never mind heavyweight boxing, and it's also heavyweight, Adam. Like heavyweight fights are just special, aren't they?
Yeah, you're right I think the heavyweight thing is a great point, because obviously they always kind of produce, and it's good to see the heavyweights sort of back at the top of the pile, because there was a period when I was a bit younger, sort of late to mid, sort of early 2000s, that it was the sort of the smaller guys taking over, you know, the likes of Floyd, Manny Pacquiao, etc. So to have these like the big heavyweights taking center stage is good. Ross, do you think it's something in boxing being special, the idea that obviously if this had been an MMA fight, we probably wouldn't have seen both men get off the floor, because when one of them hit the ground, you know, the other one would have jumped on, they would have landed some ground and pound, whatever, they'd have got the finish. And the ability in boxing for, you know, them both to go down twice and beat the count and come back and still go 11 rounds, is that something that gives it a certain edge over MMA?
I think it adds a certain sort of spice to it. I feel like it answers the question quite well. What's more dangerous? And just looking at it point blank, I feel like MMA would be the answer. But when you consider it and think, one sec, they get knocked down, pretty much get knocked out, and then they stand back up and got to do it again. It's arguably a lot more dangerous, really, because if you were as out as Wilder was out in any of them drops in an MMA fight, the fight would be over, really, wouldn't it? But we've watched him stand back up, gets like 10 count to get back up, and then he's back in it with one of the scariest guys in the world. So yeah, it definitely adds a little bit of pizzazz to it all.
Pizzazz, that's a good word.
Pizzazz, yeah. It's rarely you hear the word fight and pizzazz put in the
Yeah,
same
I was thinking
sentence.
it's not this. It's not a general application of the word pizzazz, but we'll allow it.
It is now. It is now.
Where does that rank in terms of like boxing matches that you've seen and you've watched in live, obviously not in person but in real time? Where does that rank in terms of the best you've ever seen? Because for me it was right up there.
Yeah, I think the whole situation and like the fact that it's the third fight and just that it's them two and there's like it's always been quite heated between them. So I think all that adds to the aesthetic of the fight. Just like with anything, you know what I mean? When like Conor's fighting Khabib, it adds to it because it's them two and they're going at it. But yeah, as I said, it's the trilogy. It was the third fight, and there was a lot riding on it for both of them, really. I don't know who I'd say who had more riding on it. Maybe Wilder.
Yeah, it's got to be Wilder coming off the loss, hasn't it? And obviously the first fight was a draw, and many argue that he lost that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it now sort of begs the question is, where does Wilder go next? Because obviously as long as Fury's got the belt, it seems like he probably doesn't get another shot at Fury. And, we've got Usyk, who obviously beat Anthony Joshua in September to claim the other 4 belts. So it kind of, Wilder's options sort of running out a bit. It looks like, Usyk's going to have a rematch with AJ. Fury's got a mandatory challenger in Dillian White. So it's going to be interesting to see what Wilder does next and, who his next opponent is, because he's a must watch, no matter what you think of him personally.
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder's fights are must watch.
Give him Logan Paul or Jake Paul.
Now that I could get on board with.
That'd sell.
Can we not give him Logan Paul and Jake Paul?
Yeah, both of them. Imagine that would actually sell so well just to see.
Even if it was at the same time,
it'd be a horrible mismatch. Be a horrible.
Imagine Jake Paul knocks him out or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Jake Paul's definitely got that in the bag because it's a horrible mismatch.
Yeah.
Jake Paul on points.
Jake Paul on points. No, to answer your actual question though, Adam, if Deontay Wilder is going to continue knocking everyone else out that's not called Tyson Fury, including Anthony Joshua, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see. I almost would rather see Wilder AJ than Fury AJ.
Yeah, I feel like Fury's just the best, isn't he? Like he's just probably going to beat everyone.
I don't know about Usyk though. Usyk's on a different level skill wise.
I think he can beat Fury though.
The only concern is the weight. Obviously Usyk is a former undisputed cruiserweight champion. So that was one of the things against AJ that people said is obviously if AJ can use his size and show him how a real heavyweight operates, then he would struggle. AJ was never really able to do that. Usyk kept him at range, used the jab well. Fury would probably get like he did against Wilder. He'd probably, work the body a lot more, the dirty boxing, work on the inside and try and beat him up a bit more. I think it'd be a good fight. And I really, really hope we get to see that one as well, because boxing's got this horrible habit, hasn't it, of we don't ever quite get to see these big fights. There's always another rematch or there's always another mandatory. So, yeah, I hope we see that. Ross, before we move on to the UFC and looking back at UFC 39, I want to talk about your bet, because it's probably the best bet that I've seen on Wilder Fury so far. And I can't put it in my special Excel sheet because that's exclusively for MMA bets.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us what you had.
So we had both men to get 2+ knockdowns each, and it was 50-1. We just chucked a little fiver on there, and obviously it came in. So it was a very happy night for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I was the naysayer in the corner telling you not to put it on.
Yeah, you almost talked me out of it. I almost didn't put it on.
Put up such a reasoned argument, because it is such a rarity that you get 2+ knockdowns at both fighters. But what a shout from you at 50-1. That's absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was quite reasonable when I first saw it, and then like you spoke some truth. and got in my head a little bit, and I almost didn't do it, but I did, and I'm glad I stuck with my guns.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't listen to me either, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So
all the bets on the night.
Well, I start now.
All the bets on the night. We also both dipped into the Fury to land 60+ punches in the first 6 rounds. As that was boosted 6-1 on Sky Bets. It was really good value for us there. I also had Fury to win evens just on outright, and Fury to win in round 7-12 at 5-2. So I ended up making a nice profit on that one as well, which obviously helped us enjoy the evening that little bit more, didn't it, lads?
For sure, mate. Yeah, it was a good night, betting wise all round. I think our mate won something as well. Our mate put, what was it? He had Fury to land 60+ strikes in the first 6 rounds, and
he was 72, on the
2. I think.
Yeah, 74. I think he was on that double up boost as well, which was doubled up from 3-1 for 6-1 on Sky Bet, which was really handy for us in the end.
So it was a good night betting wise.
Yeah, good night betting wise. And yeah, moving on to UFC 39, it was Dern against Rodriguez. And I'll get let's be honest here, in all due respect, it wasn't the greatest card, was it? It wasn't the biggest names, but there were some good fights on there, wasn't there?
There always is, mate. Regardless of the headline, regardless of the main card, even like the prelims, the undercard, whatever, there's always going to be some bangers, some sick knockouts. And it's normally from like the guys that you've never heard of. Yeah,
the guys that are out there to make a name.
They're out there trying to win that performance bonus, and they're trying to prove themselves, get a name for themselves. And so yeah, a lot of the time, there's some good fights that you don't expect.
What about Marina Rodriguez then? Because she actually went into this one against Mackenzie Dern as the betting underdog. And yeah, she picked up a pretty impressive decision win. George, what did you make of the fight?
I mean, it was about as standard of a fight that you can possibly have. It pretty much lived up to what my expectations of it. But I can agree with you that Rodriguez did surprise me. But she won a decision. Was it a split decision or was it unanimous?
It was unanimous, 49-46 in Marina's favour. Yeah,
quite a one-sided fight, really.
Yeah, it was very one-sided fight. She did surprise me with how dominant she was, but it was a pretty standard title fight as you could possibly have. Mackenzie Dern, not to say that she's a can, but I never really expected her to reach like insane levels in MMA. Rodriguez is pretty exciting, I suppose, though, because I mean, she landed a decent amount of strikes, no takedowns, but she seemed to just dominate on the feet, which was pretty entertaining to watch. But there was no moment where it looked like she was going to finish it. I don't really know. What do you think?
Ross, well, I guess if you're that dominant on the feet and sorry, go on.
No, mate, go on. You're on. Keep going.
Yeah, well, just George's comment about the takedowns. I guess if you're out striking someone by that much, what's the point in trying a takedown? If it's not broke, then don't fix it. She clearly didn't need to shoot for any takedowns. I think she actually more than doubled her Mackenzie Dern on significant strikes. So
she did. She did.
And then a takedown defense was great as well. Dern went for 8 takedowns, only got 1 of them. So it was quite a definitive answer, really.
Yeah, some of them were starting to look a bit desperate by the end from Dern, weren't they? They weren't very strategic takedown attempts. They were very kind of, I don't want to stand here and strike anymore. Let's try and get into the ground. Yeah. 3 wins in a row now for Marina. Obviously, she beat Amanda Ribas, she beat Michelle Waterson, and she beat Mackenzie Dern, which are all decent wins. Is she making her way towards the title fight? Sorry, I've got Siri asking me questions here as well.
There's definitely the argument for it. I'm not sure where she's ranked anymore, but the women's divisions aren't too stacked. So if someone gets on a sort of streak like that, especially against some like recognizable names, then there's always question for a title shot.
She's number 4. She's number 4, obviously. We've got Rose and Zhang Wei Li coming up in a few weeks. Number 2 is Joanna, and number 3 is Carla Esparza.
That's tough. That.
So
That's
I mean,
tough
it's a
at the
pretty
top.
it's a pretty tough division, but obviously Marina's coming in there with 3 wins, bit of a different face up there. You know, is she 1 away, 2 away? Do we think from a shot at the belt, George?
I could see that Carla Esparza being a good next fight, to be honest with you.
Has Joanna got one in the book?
Has Joanna got one in the book?
The only fight I hear touted about for Joanna is the Zhang Weili rematch, which obviously works out well if she beats Rose, but it's almost
works out well for everyone watching as well.
Well, yeah, obviously, fight of the year 2020.
That's a barn brawl of that.
What's that? Sorry.
Zhang against Joanna rematch. That's the one that Joanna's been touted for. But would, like you said, maybe Marina against Joanna, given that Joanna doesn't officially have something in the book and Weili or Rose may need some time after their fight in a few weeks.
Marina and Carla, that's what I think.
Well, I like that matchup as well.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? What, 4 and 5? Is it?
Yeah.
3 and 4.
3 and 4,
third.
sorry, yeah.
3 and 4, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, obviously. But that just leaves Joanna. Like, does she get the winner of Rose and Weili, or?
Joanna's been sat out for a little bit, which is my problem with her getting the fight.
Yeah.
She'd still be coming off the loss as well, because obviously she did lose the fight to Zhang.
Yeah,
it's
but
the Justin Gaethje effect.
Doesn't always matter though. Like Masvidal gets title shot as soon as he got beat from a title shot.
I mean, yeah, that was different. It
is Masvidal, isn't it? It is Masvidal, I guess. Probably he got a bit of Dana White privilege, hasn't he?
Well, also the fact that he agreed to fight on 6 days' notice against Kamaru the first time, and they obviously went 5 rounds, so he's got a fair claim to say, on a full training camp, he might have done better. So yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, but he did worse, which is bad.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Usman just got better.
Yeah, Usman's just so good, isn't he?
He's constantly getting better under Trevor Whitman. But
there'll
be time to talk about the Nigerian Nightmare later on in the show, because we're going to put together a combined male and female pound for pound list. But just looking through the rest of the card, Randy Brown defeated Jared Gooden. Matthias Nicolau defeated Tim Elliott. And who else? So Chris Gutierrez, Felipe Solares. There was some good fights on there. Did anyone take your eye?
Nothing's standing out to me, to be fair, when I'm looking over it. Like we said, it wasn't the most exciting card. No, I can't. As I say, I can't say anything stood out to me.
George?
There's a lot of decision wins, weren't there?
I thought that Tim Elliott was going to do better than he did. Personally,
I was impressed with Nicolau, though. I thought he handled the occasion well.
For sure.
I was impressed with Nicolau. Steve Garcia earlier in the night, he had a good win. I think it was first fight on the card. Yeah, that was a good fight. And obviously was part of my
Romanov.
Romanov was a good fight as well. Agapova, Ross, we obviously the Agapova knockout. She dropped with a big right hand and choked her out, didn't she? So that was I remember.
I forgot about that. Shit, yeah. That was class, to be fair. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Kill her overhand and then just pounced on her like Ortega speed. Got her in the rear naked, was it? I think it was rear naked.
Rear naked, exactly.
Rear naked, yeah, just jumped straight on there and ended it. Yeah, it's sick.
Sort of brings me on to my one and only bet for this card. Obviously, there was no show last week. We were all quite busy, other commitments, and wasn't the greatest card, so we decided to give it a miss last week. And in typical style, I did put out a bet on our social accounts. So if you are looking for bets, tips, we'll post them all up on there before the various cards. So it's at Octagon_odds on Twitter, Instagram, Octagon Odds on Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's Octagon Odds. Same if you're listening on SoundCloud, iTunes, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us a review as well if you're enjoying the show. But yeah, my fourfold was Steve Garcia Randy Brown, Matthias Nicolau, we've just touched on, and Marina Rodriguez at 6-4. So that accumulator came in at 5.64 to 1. So popping that in the Excel sheet, Ross, and looking across, it makes pretty grim reading for you, I'll be honest. Obviously, the week before, we had a few issues on the Vegas 38 card. I had Santos, Oliveira, Kevin Holland, and Aspen Ladd to win, which never made it past the weigh-ins because obviously Aspen Ladd missed weight. And you went, bitch, you didn't have Aspen Ladd in, and you had Santos, Price, Holland to win. And obviously that was let down by the void situation with Kevin Holland and the headbutt against Kyle Dockus. Hardy, your bet also lost because of Kevin Holland, which puts your first bet, I'm afraid, on -10. Ross, you were 20 units in the bank thanks to a winning treble from UFC 267. A winning quadruple from UFC 267, which had you £20 units in the green. So now you're 10 units in the green after this. Me is looking a little bit rosy profit-wise. I was plus 66.4 units before the start of last week. I had a loser on Alex Oliveira from 38. I also, obviously, as I just mentioned, had the losing fourfold that was voided because of Aspen Ladd. But yeah, on this week's card, my only bet was Garcia, Nicolau, Brown, and Rodriguez to win. That was 5.64 to 1, which at 10 units lands us a tidy, brings us a tidy profit of £101 and 4 units total for me now.
Nice. Let's get it.
Oh, sorry, I've completely made a balls that. It's actually 81 because minus 20 units. So it's 80. So yeah, for what we're 3 weeks in now, and I'm plus 81.4. Ross is plus 10.
He's modelling the numbers. He's modelling the numbers in his favour.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep your own Excel sheet, feel free. But that's the betting from last week. We'll run through our bets for this week's card later in the show. And as I say, after this short break, we're going to be talking through a combined male and female pound for pound list. Now I am.
Now go.
Right. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Okay, so we're back after our short little break. I just want to preface this next section by saying that I am unwell right now. So my lack of, the reason I'm not vocalizing myself and I can't form sentences properly is because I'm unwell, and these two bellends dragged me onto this podcast.
Did we ball? Give you so many chances to dip.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I will do it, I guess.
Yeah. That was one more.
I can't believe he's begged to do the intro and then uses an opportunity to call us bellends.
Yeah, that's it. So that's me. I'm dipping. No, I just wanted to preface that. I just wanted to give him a bit of context, all right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to our pound for pound list. There's going to be a combined Octagon Odds pound for pound list, men and women. We're going to start from number 10 and we're going to go up. And we're going to try and agree. Now, it's going to be very hard to agree because I don't agree with these two bellends on the
there's going to be some arguments here.
But we're going to start with number 10 and we're going to move up and we're going to try and come to a conclusion. So I'm going to start with Ross Beaumont. Who have you got in your number 10 spot?
Number 10 goes to Stipe Miocic.
Okay. So tell us why Stipe sits in number 10 for you.
Obviously, Ngannou's done what he did to him, but it just does not take away what Stipe has done for the game. The longest winning streak in the heavyweight division, longest reigning champion. Just an absolute beast and still one of the best in the world. Regardless of Ngannou, he's still one of the most dangerous. Probably best in that division, other than Ngannou. I'd say that he beats Cyril Gane.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, just everything he's done. He's just an absolute warrior, isn't he? And he's proven himself time and time again against the best of the best. DC twice, man.
Yeah, that he has, and Ngannou once, who is the current reigning champion. Now I'll tell you who I've got in my number 10. You might not agree with this, Ross, but it's Stipe Miocic.
Nah, I'm not having it.
Yeah, I knew. See, told you we wouldn't come to an agreement. Stipe Miocic, for all the reasons that you said, you can't deny when he came back against DC, especially in that third fight. He was quick. He looked a lot like he looked cut. He looked ready, and his game plan was pretty perfect. And I mean, I could call him a glass chin for getting punched by Ngannou because pillow punching and all that, but we won't go into that. Now, Stipe Miocic, number 10. Adam, so that leads on to you. Who have you got at number 10?
Well, it worries me that both of you have got Stipe at 10 because that means that one of the 10 names that I've got in front of me hasn't made your lists. Now, this was very difficult for me, number 10. And neither of you are going to agree because it's a completely inappropriate ranking for this person. But there are extenuating circumstances to this. We're talking about someone who hasn't fought since February 2020. And on top of that, has recently been involved in some issues in his personal life in terms of being arrested for a domestic violence issue. He's had some issue with his coaches. And number 10 on my current pound for pound list is John Bones Jones. At number 10, purely because I couldn't not have him in the top 10, but I'm not sure given A, the steroid scandals, B, the arrests, and C, the inactivity, that I could justify putting him any higher up than 10th place.
That's the most rogue choice I've ever heard in my whole life.
I know.
Like, I told you. You're gonna stick to your guns and get Jones on there. Put him in bloody number 1, all right?
No, I'll tell you the truth. I had 1 to 9 filled out, and I thought there's no way that I can't put John Jones in a pound for pound top 10 while he's still considered an active fighter despite of it all, but I couldn't morally put it any higher. So if you two want to tell me that I'm completely wrong and put Stipe,
you're completely wrong, Adam.
Right, so Stipe is going in at number 10 in our combined list then.
I think majority takes that one.
No. Let's just have a think about this. So, I mean, Adam mentioned there some of the wayward things that John Jones done in his spare time. Ross, let me just ask you: Does that affect him? I mean, I'm no spoilers, but has he made it into the pound for pound list for you above number 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So he isn't.
That worries me because someone else in my list hasn't made your list then, Ross. And I want to know who it is.
Yeah, and he isn't in my top 10. And that might be controversial as well, but I believe that he's inactive. He's not a fighter. He's not fighting. He's getting up to all this stuff, and he obviously doesn't care about his career. He's not coming back for any of these super fights that we've heard lined up for him. And his actions outside the octagon, for me, he shouldn't be on this list. And that's why I've left him out.
Yeah, I was considering leaving him out, but I was also looking at the official rankings, and he's still on the pound for pound list. So I thought
Conor McGregor was number 1 for like 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't really take the UFC's pound for pound ranks as gospel. I appreciate that, but we're not talking about anyone here. We're talking about Johnny Bones Jones, mate. We're talking about, inside the octagon, his achievements are unmatched.
Yes, but let me counter with this, Adam. The most ass that he's beaten in the past 5 years has been a woman.
So. Jesus, we're gonna have to cut that out for fuck's sake.
No, we're not. No, we're not, because it's not my fault that he's done that. I'm defending this lady and saying that this man shouldn't be anywhere near the pound for pound list. He shouldn't be anywhere near the organisation. You, on the other hand, have put him on your list, and Ross has put him in the top above 10.
Yeah, Ross, you are a scumbag.
Yeah, you are both scumbags, and I'm the one that submitted him to the list for his actions and his inactivity, and so I don't think I should be. Berated for
Fabs.
that.
I'll put Stipe goes in at number 10, and I'm interested to see where Jones made it on Ross's list.
Okay, yeah, so we'll go Stipe number 10. Octagon Odds official, Stipe number 10. Okay, that leads us on to number 9. Okay, and I'm gonna go for mine first here and just tell you who I've got. I've gone for Stipe's clone, Jan Blachowicz.
They're so similar.
Because very similar looking guys. What a fighter, what a guy. Just proves time and time again that he is just coming to a league of his own. And I love a story. I love a story of a fighter that has started from at the bottom, maybe even been a gatekeeper for a while, and somehow has become the best of the best. Jan Blachowicz, his striking is unreal. His wrestling is unreal. His movement and his boxing is so sharp these days. The way he spins out of his combos and the countering that he's displayed in his last couple of fights is out of this world. So he's a solidly on at number 9 for me. What about you, Adam?
I think you're completely wrong to put Jan even in the top 10. I don't think we can have anyone who lost to Alexander Gustafsson, Patrick Cummins, Corey Anderson, Jimmy Nunez, and Thiago Santos anywhere near our pound for pound list. Number 9 for me, Thug Rose, 2-time strawweight champion, dethroned Zhang Weili in a last bout to become a 2-time strawweight champion. Tell me I'm wrong. Rose Namajunas, number 9.
Yeah, it's a good
Rose
call.
came in at 11 for me. She came in at 11 for me, just outside of the top 10. I actually did 15 because I didn't know how many we were going to do. Rose came in at 11th, so she's an honourable mention for me. What about you, Ross? What about number 9 for you?
10's hard, and it's so hard. And when I just shortlisted all the names, I was there with 17 names. So hard to order them. But it's my if I'd done 15, I would have put 11 and 12. Jan and Rose, which is mad. They didn't make the cut, just didn't make it. But if I'm taking Jones out, not saying I am, but if I didn't include Jones like you two, then I think Jan would have made it. But nevertheless, my number 9 is Valentina Shevchenko.
That low? Oh
number 9? Are you mad?
Just looking at the rest of the list.
Me a little bit.
I'm sorry, Valentina is not going at number 9.
Just the rest of the list,
it's a lot higher than number 9.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, as I said, it was so hard, and just looking at the names, just hard to put her above anyone else. And I would love to, and I did want to, but just doing it, that's how it came out for me.
If I can do one veto tonight, I'm going to do that one. I'm going to say she's not going number 9.
Listen,
we're only 10% way through, so
you can save your veto because we're working on a majority here, and there's no way Valentina is going as low as 9. That's criminal.
Okay, so the best way to sort this then is if we both make our cases for Ross, and see who he decides is going there over. What was yours again, Adam? Sorry, Rose.
We're arguing essentially between Jan and Rose because we both had them in the sort of top 11, 12. But for me, I had Rose number 9. It was tossed a coin between her and Jan, to be honest. But obviously, I'd mentioned Jan's 5 career losses. I know he's been on a great run since 2019. Fair enough, but Thug Rose, for me, winning the belt for a second time, coming back from what she's been through to become a 2-weight world champion. She could defend that belt in a few weeks against Zhang Weili. And for me, the fact that she is a 2-time champion just edges her out over Jan for me.
Good case. Go on then, George. What have you got?
So, I'm just gonna come out with this straight, okay? So, what I've done is I've wrote down my pound for pound list in the notes, okay? And because I wrote the first one as the title, I've accidentally not counted it. So what I've actually done is accidentally read out all the wrong results from my list so far.
Wow.
So number 10, I had Jan.
Right. So Stipe at 9. 11. Wow.
No, Stipe at 11.
Okay.
Right. So Jan with 10.
Yeah.
And then at number 9, I had Max Holloway.
Wow, that's not made things really much easier.
No, it's
For
really,
me,
it's really not.
The answer to that question, in my opinion, then is Ross. Have you got Max Holloway somewhere in the next 8 names on your list?
Well, if I didn't, there'd be something wrong with me.
Right, brilliant. In that case, then, George, I'm afraid Max can't go as low as 9 because we've both got him higher up. So
we'll agree on Rose then.
So it's Rose down with you. Well, I'm glad I've won that one. Maybe that might be my only one, given that I had Jones. Given that I had Jones,
I might have taken a slip, but I made a mistake. But we'll move on. Okay, you can have that. You can have that, Adam. Everyone gets one. You need a win. You need a win, so I'll give you this one.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah. That's number 9. We're going to agree. So number 10, Stipe Miocic. Number 9, Rose Namajunas. Moving on to number 8, and we'll start with Adam.
At number 8, arguably the fighter of the last 18 months to 2 years. Despite the fact that he's never been world champion, he has had the interim belt, and he's beaten former champions in the likes of Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor twice, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Max Holloway, and it is Dustin the Diamond Poirier.
Okay, so that's your number 8. I want to hear. So you've given lots of good reasons there. You've given lots and lots of good reasons there. I want to hear, Ross. Who have you got number 8?
My number 8 is Alexander the Great Volkanovski.
Okay, once again, in my opinion, guys, both of those are quite low. Both of those.
Yeah, Poirier is low there. Poirier is low for me there.
I honestly couldn't find a reason to get him any higher, mostly because of the fact that he's never been a UFC champion. And for me, given the names that are above him on my list, it's hard for me to make a case that someone who's never won the gold is higher than these guys on the pound for pound.
The thing is about that, it's obviously hypotheticals. He would, in my opinion, he probably would have had a few title shots other than the Khabib one if it weren't for the McGregor fights.
If my uncle had wheels, mate.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if it weren't for them McGregor fights, the money fights that he took, he would have had that. Definitely would have had title shots and probably would have won them. But obviously that didn't happen. So
yeah, I'm just gonna say I won't agree with that. I won't have Poirier that low. My number 8 I've gone for is Francis Ngannou. Now, the scariest man on planet Earth. The reason he's in number 8, I mean, he's been phenomenal recently. He just knocks everyone out. We've seen him get dominated by Steve, but he came back and proved that he can fight technically. But I don't think he's quite there yet with his technical skills. I think he'll get there. The reason I've put him in number 8 is because, I mean, obviously number 8's an amazing position. He's an amazing fighter, scariest man on earth, like I said. But he's got a long way to go, I think. I wouldn't say he's a better fighter than the people that I've got in the top 7. So Ngannou's my number 8.
I make a good point about maybe there being sort of a skills discrepancy there with Ngannou.
Yeah, but you see his progress in his last fight with Stipe. When we saw him sprawl and stuff like takedown, I think the whole world was oh shit.
Oh yeah,
especially that heavyweight division.
Stipe definitely was.
Yeah, Stipe of all people to stuff as well. Stipe is no joke when it comes to wrestling.
No.
Look, I'm not going to argue this too heavily.
It's going to pound for pound list. Can't be bad.
I'm not going to argue this one too heavily, to be honest, because I can see your argument. I could easily have put Dustin higher up than I did. And again, I let championships rule my head here. Like I said, Dustin obviously had the interim belt. Francis Ngannou is obviously the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration here. For me, the thing that worried me or not worried me, but made me sort of question where I could put Ngannou was obviously the first loss to Stipe and the loss to Lewis. He's bounced back, obviously, 4 wins since then. But those are still, 2 losses in his last 6, which is quite a lot considering some of the records of the people higher up the list. Even if you look at Poirier, he's lost 1 of his last 10 fights.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to argue too heavily. I could happily have Francis at 8 or.
So I mean, Ross, I think me and Ross are both in agreement that Poirier should be higher than that. So we'll count Poirier out of that spot. Ross, give us some arguments
for Volk.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, it's just hard. Like, as I say, when I had these names lined up, and they all deserve to be higher, I feel like, but they're obviously not. It's hard. Thinking about it now, like I could probably be happy with putting on Ngannou there instead. From here,
okay. Well, it sounds like we could all settle on Ngannou being at number 8 if everyone's in agreement there.
I've locked him into the sheet. Francis Ngannou, number 8.
Brilliant. Stipe Miocic 10, Rose Namajunas 9, Francis Ngannou 8. Moving on to number 7. This might be, I feel, I'm going to go last here because I feel like this might be a controversial one. So we'll start with Ross.
So we're on number 7. I've put Max Holloway.
Oh, okay. So obviously we've talked about Max Holloway, talked about how amazing he is. Probably the best boxer UFC's ever seen. If you go off pure boxing skills, what a personality, what a guy, what a gas tank. Just seems to overwhelm people. I mean, he's got the top 2 records, number 1, number 2 for most punches thrown in a fight, right? Against Ortega and
broke his own record.
Just a joke, mate. Probably one of my favourite fighters to watch on this list.
Yeah, hands down.
Absolutely. So Adam, number 7, what have you got?
Well, I had Francis Ngannou at number 7 and I had Poirier at number 8. So given that we've locked Francis in to number 8, that to me bumps Dustin up to number 7. Max is on my list, but yeah, spoiler alert, it's higher than Dustin. And for me, Holloway's got to stay above Dustin for the same reason we talked about. We're not just talking about someone who's won a UFC featherweight championship, but he's got the most wins in UFC featherweight history. As George said, most strikes landed. He's got a host of striking records, had the longest winning streak in featherweight history, defended the belt on multiple occasions. For me, that qualifies him to be above Dustin Poirier on this list, given what we've said about him already.
That's absolutely fair enough. So this is my controversial 7th place. I mean, I talked about this before, how much I value this fighter. Yeah, I feel like I've talked about how much I value this fighter, and he's not a champion right now, which is why it might be a bit controversial. But in my eyes, probably one of the best fighters we've ever seen, and it's Robert Whittaker. Bobby Knuckles for me is just, I mean, he's just outrageous. If it wasn't for Adesanya, he'd be the middleweight champion, and he would still just have not been beaten by anyone. He'd still just smoked everyone that he'd come across. And Adesanya is obviously higher up on the list for me, as I imagine he probably is for you two as well. But Whittaker is my number 7, and I actually struggled to put him in number 7. For me, he could have been even higher than that. That's how good of a fighter I think Robert Whittaker is.
Well, I think if we were doing a men's top 10 pound for pound, I think Robert Whittaker makes the cut. But yeah, for me, he was 11, 12 honourable mentions category for me. It's a shame because obviously his loss is to Izzy, and pretty much everyone else in that division he's dominated. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't make the cut. Given that we're doing both a women and a men's, there just wasn't room for him in my list.
Yeah, for me, he's a very, very honourable mention. It's tough not to put him up there because he is one of my favourite guys. Not even like playing favouritism, but like you said, George, he is an absolute wizard in the octagon. It was hard not to put him in the top 10, but I think there's just other people above him, unfortunately.
If we put Whittaker in this top 10, there's going to be a big name that we're going to have to admit, that given that we've locked in the 3 below them already. So
I'll secede Whittaker. I knew I wouldn't get that one anyway, but that was just a.
Is it?
The question.
The question is it Poirier or Max at number 7?
I'd put Max.
Yeah, I'd put Max lower than Poirier.
Okay, I can. Yeah, I agree. Given that obviously Poirier's beaten Holloway, I can get on board with that. But yeah, for me, again,
that's not even the reasoning really, because I've put Volk lower than Max, and obviously Volk's beat him twice. But like, you made a great point, Adam, about Holloway's reign and his all these records and like just everything. But,
we were talking about a potential featherweight GOAT before the Volkanovski fights. So
we still are.
Yeah, we still exactly.
We still are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we're going to lock in Holloway at number 7.
Yeah, if we have to.
Yeah, let's lock him in.
Okay, locked in.
I mean,
Okay.
6
So,
then has to be Dustin Poirier. I don't think we can put
Okay.
Dustin in the top 5. I
well,
love
you're
Dustin
going to be surprised
Poirier.
where he comes on my list.
Wow, I can't believe some of the other names.
You're going to be very surprised. No, you're going to be
man.
very surprised.
There's no way we can put Dustin higher than 6. I'm sorry, he's never won the belt.
Okay. Well, we're not up to there yet, so let's go to number 6. Okay. There's no number 6. I'll go first.
This has got to be Poirier. Number 6 for me.
No. Let me just say what I think. Okay. Alexander Volkanovski, number 6. He is obviously amazing. I think Max beat him in the second fight, but that's a there and thereabouts kind of fight, and you could argue either way. I've put Volk here because I feel like I've had to. I know he's amazing. He's beat Max twice, and he beat Ortega, and he obviously the people that he's beat on the way up as well. He's obviously an amazing fighter, but for me, there's something about him that doesn't make him crack that top 5. I don't know what it is. Obviously, he's number 6, which is it's nothing to be scoffed at. His striking's amazing. His wrestling's amazing. He's an absolutely amazing, like the way he explodes, the way that he strikes, the way that he's in and out, the way that he uses his like center of gravity to put his opponent off when he's rushing in. He's an amazing fighter. So that's why he goes number 6 for me. What about you, Adam?
It's got to be. Given what we've got already, it's got to be Poirier at 6. We can't.
You said Poirier for the last 5 fucking.
Yeah,
slots,
because that's because you've taken the ones that I had written down at number 6, Max Holloway, and we've already locked him in at number 7. But I've spoken about my love for Max already, and I made the case for why he should have been above Dustin, and I've lost. So my case now is, given that I've got who I've got in the top 5, I don't see how Dustin gets above any of them. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair enough.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fair enough. I can see your argument of having no championships. We're going to get to Poirier. The reason I'm not saying anything on this matter yet is because I've got a lot to say about Poirier, and like I said, he's quite high on my list, and I've got reasons for that. We'll get to that. So
I think you're gonna have to make your case now, because otherwise, I think we have to lock him in at 6.
I'm just gonna keep saying Poirier if he's not.
if I give my case now, then I'm going to have to tell you what position I've got him in.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily. Surely.
Make your case for why he should be in the top 5, and the current champion, the current Volkanovski's not in there. You got Whittaker. You had Whittaker up there, so someone else who should be in there is not up there.
Right. So let's just talk about fighting. Let's talk to the root of fighting. Right. What makes someone a good fighter? Their skill set, but it's who they've beat. It's who they have beat. If you can prove yourself that you can beat the best of the best, you are the best of the best. And let me just fucking read out Dustin Poirier's last fucking hit list. Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, Gaethje, Alvarez again, Holloway, Khabib with the loss, Hooker, McGregor again. Holloway twice, McGregor twice, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Eddie Alvarez again. Tell me that isn't the best record in the UFC.
That isn't the best record in the UFC.
Those are the best opponents in the UFC on the record. Like the best hit list in the UFC.
But you just glossed over the fact that he has lost one of his last 4 fights
to Khabib.
Yeah, fine. To Khabib. To Khabib, we had a loss.
If Khabib was still fighting, he'd be my number 1.
A loss in 2016 to Michael Johnson, a loss in 2014 to Conor McGregor, a loss in 2013 to Cub Swanson, a loss against Chang Sung-Young in 2012, a loss against Danny Castillo in 2010. You want to talk about records? Volkanovski's is just win.
Yes, it's the caliber. It's the caliber of people.
It doesn't get much bigger.
It's the caliber.
Bigger than Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, and Chad Mendes in your last fight on your way to the belt.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Conor McGregor, Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis. That's bigger. I'm not even going to do that.
He lost to Khabib in the middle of all that.
Everyone loses to Khabib.
Yes, but Volkanovski has not lost since 2013. Poirier has 4 losses in that time.
Would Volkanovski lose to Khabib?
Everyone loses to Khabib.
Right, so you just answered your own question there, really, didn't you?
But
They've lost to Khabib.
How can we say that somebody who has not lost since 2013 is not as good as someone who has 4 losses in the same period? I just don't.
Let me just put the right. Okay,
is the reigning defending champion, something which Poirier has never done.
Let's put this into perspective, Adam. Me and Ross, we both started fighting this year, okay? My future fights, 12, 14-year-olds, and I batter them all. Ross's next 4 fights, Anthony Joshua, Wilder, Fury, Nunez,
bangs them all.
You've just compared Holloway,
right?
Jose, Chad Mendes,
fights.
and Brian Ortega to 12 and 14-year-olds.
No. What I'm saying is, you're saying that it's the amount that you win that makes you the best, and I'm saying it's who you beat that makes you the best, and that's the 2 sides of the argument. So what I'm saying is, like, if you won 4 fights against the legends, and I won 12 fights against nobodies, who's better? Am I better because I won 12 fights?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Volkanovski has won 14 fights in a row against some of the top guys. Like, we were literally just talking about how Holloway is a potential featherweight GOAT. The other featherweight GOAT, Jose Aldo, in there as well. Just beat Holloway twice. And Poirier, yeah, like, he's been fighting absolute dogs, but find me a guy on this list who hasn't been fighting dogs. Like, they're all fighting dogs. What I'm saying is that in the time since Volkanovski last lost, Poirier has lost 4 times. So I don't see any way in which the champion can still be rated below Poirier. I just don't see it.
Okay, so when were Poirier's losses? You said 2014. Yeah, 2014, 2015.
2019, 2016, 2014, 2013, 2012, and 2010.
And those were all against UFC opponents when he was younger.
So the only one that wasn't a UFC opponent would have been Danny Castillo, because that would have been WEC or whatever it was called back then. Okay, so while Poirier was fighting all these beasts in the UFC, Alexander's first fight in the UFC was November 2016. Before that, he wasn't even in the UFC. So whoever he was beating then, doesn't matter. It's on his record. It's a padded record. I'm not trying to. You're making it so that I'm putting dirt on Alexander Volkanovski's name. You just said he got a padded record, and you compared. You compared his opponents to 12 and 14-year-old girls.
No, that was an analogy because of the way that the argument you were making was his win streak makes him better than Poirier, and I was saying Poirier's caliber of opponents that he's beating makes him better. So I was just making an analogy. I don't think we disagree on what makes you. We disagree on what makes you a good fighter. My opinion, and it always has been, and this is why I've struggled to jump onto hype trains before I see them beat someone good. Because my opinion is, if you like Max always says, to be the best, you've got to beat the best, and the best is blessed. All right,
and he beat Blessed twice. And he beat Blessed
exactly,
twice.
And he beat Blessed twice.
So he's the best.
He's the best because he beats the best. He beats the best.
So put him at. So put. So
he's
put
going to be
Poirier. Put Poirier at 6 and let Volk go on to battle it out for the top 5 because he deserves it. Because he beat the best, and the best is blessed, and he beat him twice.
Yeah, but so did Poirier twice.
Damn, that's a really good point.
So we were confused because I thought you were talking about Poirier.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I forgot they beat him twice.
They both beat the Blessed. They both beat Blessed twice, right? But Poirier did it in a fashion you can't even argue with. No.
You can sort of argue Max's case there because he moved up. He moved up. No, you can't. Well, if you let me speak,
he lost it well and truly. He lost 5 rounds.
Yeah, but all right, if you're gonna let me speak. It's very similar to the Adesanya and Yan fight. How Adesanya moved up and he was still just as good, apart from the strength, and he didn't have the power.
Yeah, but that's a 30-pound gap.
Yeah, but nor did Max. Right, let me speak. Max hung with Poirier the whole fight. He was still boxing as well as Poirier, but Poirier's punches were landing harder. Right, well, in my opinion,
we disagree on that anyway. Yeah, well, we disagree on that anyway. Right, we'll put Poirier at 6 then if that's what you both want. But that was my argument with Poirier is that I've
not really been involved in this conversation, so
without his belt, without getting a belt. If Poirier had a belt, you'd both be putting him top 2. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, agreed. If Poirier has a belt, you can go top 5 for me.
Yeah,
the only reason he doesn't have the only reason he doesn't have a belt is personal choice, and that's what makes him so good.
Yeah, but you can't say that he definitely would have a belt. I know I brought that point up earlier, but you can't say he definitely would have won whoever he fought. Do you know what I mean?
No. But I can make. I think he would. I think he'd have a belt. Personally.
If you
wanted to have a belt, you can have one.
Is Poirier going in at 6 then?
I mean, it sounds like he is, but I'm not happy about it. But yeah, sounds like.
What's our other options?
Volkanovski.
I said Volk.
Volk or Poirier. Right. Well, should I decide? Because you two are just.
Yeah, and you might as well fill in. You might as well fill in 5 at the same time because we can't have Poirier higher than 5.
6. All right. Coming in at 6 is Volkanovski, and
nice.
And I put Poirier 5th. So.
We're not. Well, he's not 5th on mine, so let's talk about that.
No, because I think it's very fair. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair. 5th. Is he 5th on your list, Ross? Is he 5th on your list?
Yeah, he's 5th on my list. Yeah.
Is he? And who's 5th on your list? Disregarding who you put before him, who's 5th on your list?
Alexander Volkanovski.
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
But I'm happy to drop Volk to 6 and put Poirier at 5 for the sake of just getting on with the show. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't think Adam's going to wiggle on Poirier. So
no, we'll put Poirier 5th. My 5th place, I'll just say it's Shevchenko. But we'll put Poirier there.
Where did you have Poirier then?
Well, we'll keep moving. So number 4, Ross, who have you got number 4?
I have got Adesanya at 4.
Okay, all right, okay. And Adam?
I have got the first woman to defend a UFC flyweight title, 6 successful title defenses, victories over 3 former champions, most consecutive wins in UFC flyweight history. Who else but Valentina Shevchenko at number 4? Yeah,
I can agree with that because she was my number 5. I can agree with her being number 4, definitely. She's just a beast.
I'm really shouldn't have.
Yeah, definitely. What a stupid decision that is.
Yeah, no, it is.
That might be the stupid decision of our lists. I won't lie to you.
Pound for pound, stupid decision.
Yeah, pound for pound, stupid decision. Ross.
I can't even back myself up because, to be fair,
yeah,
I don't really know what I'm playing at.
It's good. At least you can look in hindsight and correct your own.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we'll say Chev. We'll say Chev then, yeah.
Yeah, we've all seen what she's become in her recent fights.
Yes.
We're not talking about the same Valentina we were talking about 2 years ago. She's gone to a completely different level. For me, I think she could beat Amanda Nunez in the 3rd fight personally, but that's a separate story.
Okay, that's a claim, right? So we'll slide Chev in at 4th. She's a champion. She's 6 successful defenses. She just seems to get better every time. Nobody seems to be able to touch her. She's a great fighter to watch, and she's a lovable human outside the octagon. Can't argue with 4th. Anybody else arguing with that? And we're back after our short break, continuing with our pound for pound list. It got a bit heated before the break, as you guys probably heard, and obviously always right. So it's been a bit of a difficult one for me. Number 4, we were talking about number 4 before we left, and we sort of agreed on number 4, but I actually didn't say who I have at number 4. It's a very interesting one. Number 4 for me is Amanda Nunez. Amanda Nunez just above Shevchenko for me. So Amanda Nunez is hard to argue against being anywhere outside the top 5. She's just a beast, isn't she? She's just a beast. What else can I say? I was going to go into detail about her fighting style there, but do I really need to?
I mean, I'm gonna keep my stats in my back pocket for Amanda Nunez because she's not going at number 4. We've got Valentina. Does she? The question is, I guess, does she go at 3? Now, for me, I can make a bit of a stronger case for others to be in this spot at the minute.
Okay, number 3. I mean, I think we solidified on Shevchenko being number 4, didn't we? I think we've all agreed that.
As long as we're in agreement that Valentina goes below Amanda, then she has to be at number 4.
Yeah, Yeah, she's number 4. I would be happy with that. What about you, Ross?
Ninth, mate.
9th. Yeah, Ross did put her in 9th.
I'm happy with 4. I'm happy with 4.
Okay, Ross is budged from 9th to 4th. We'll agree with that. Okay, and like I said Nunez, so she's still yet to go. So we'll move on to number 3. Number 3, now we're in the top 3. This is very, very interesting. This is where it gets interesting. I think the way we should do it is we should do 3 now, and then we should do 1. Because obviously, if you do number 2, then you're going to know who number 1 is. So we'll do number 3 now, and we'll start with Adam. Who have you got number 3?
At number 3, I've gone with the reigning defending middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya, who, let's be honest, is currently starting his second lap around the middleweight rankings, having already beaten Brunson, Anderson Silva, Gastelum, Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Costa. He's beaten Vettori twice. He's due to face Whittaker again next, and then it'll probably be Brunson again after that. He's defended his belt 3 times already. Obviously, he had that step up to light heavyweight to take on Jan and couldn't get the job done. But for me, that doesn't dispel anything that he's done at middleweight. For me, he's on his way to becoming the best middleweight of all time. And as I said, he's about to start a second lap around those rankings. So yeah, Israel Adesanya, number 3 for me. Okay, well, that's more than a valid answer. Ross, what about you? Thank you.
Number 3, I had Amanda Nunez at 3.
Okay, so make your case, Ross. Let's hear your case.
She just speaks for herself, really. Like, there's no question in my mind that she's the best woman. Although, like, Shevchenko is 9th, but no. Nunez, she's just got everything. She's got the confidence, she's got the stand-up, she's got the rest and the jiu-jitsu that we hardly ever see, to be fair. But if she needed it, then she's absolutely got that. I just don't know how she's so powerful. Like, it's sort of like the McGregor effect, isn't it? It's like a technique must just be so sharp, and she just absolutely floors people. And she's just so accurate, just so good at striking while advancing forward. And she just doesn't really seem to be a problem for no one seems to be a problem for her. Not even Cyborg, who was like one of the most feared fighters in the world, and she just absolutely cleaned
that was
out.
Shocking, wasn't it? That was a shocking fight. That I remember.
Yeah, she just
unbelievable feeling that. I was just like, oh my god, she's
But
I called
Adam,
that. I remember everyone was giving it Cyborg, and I said Amanda had it. I didn't.
Yeah, because when you look at Cyborg, it's like, well, I can't root against this guy.
This guy.
She looks like Vanderlei Silva in a dress.
No, but Adam, to your previous comment, Adam, the Shevchenko Nunez 3 would be so good, and they could both win it. I could see them both winning, but I do think Nunez takes it.
I think they're just both at completely different stages of the career now than they were when they had the second fight. Like, Valentina is getting better and better and better. And Nunez is as well, don't get me wrong, but I just think whether maybe Nunez is over the other side of her peak and Valentina's at her absolute peak, and whether that will just play into her favour.
Possibly, yeah.
I haven't got Amanda Nunez at 3, and that's all
okay. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant, right? So you both made your cases for yours. So Adam, I've got to tell you now, get your potty out because you might piss yourself. This is what I'm going for number 3. Okay, we finally got to it. Can anyone guess?
It's Dustin Poirier, isn't it?
It's Dustin Poirier at number 3. Dustin Poirier at number 3. That's how much faith I have in this man. You might call me an idiot, Adam, but your basis for how good someone is how many belts they've had wrapped around the waist. And with that said, Michael Bisping must be better than Dustin Poirier. But like I said, I've made my point for Poirier already. I wanted to make it when we got here. I've made it in the past. He's already been put on the list. So I will cede, and I will probably say that I'd rather have Nunez there than Adesanya. Can we agree on that?
So Nunez 3rd.
I don't see how we can have. I don't see how we can have Nunez 3rd. Just hear me out here. We're talking about the first female champion to hold 2 belts simultaneously. The first fighter in UFC history to defend 2 belts in 2 divisions at the same time. The 4th longest title reign in history. Most wins for a woman. Most title fight wins for a woman. And yeah, I just think she deserves to either be, for me, 1 or 2, because she is the best female fighter in the world.
He
And
is.
for me, that puts her at either 1 or 2 on this list. And I know you say it's not about belts, George, but it is about belts, because at the end of the day, being world champion is the end goal for these fighters. They don't get recognized for having 4. Yeah, they get respect from fans. No, but they get. And I don't agree necessarily the pound for pound list, in my opinion, is even a representation of who is the best fighter. Because we could probably make.
It is for me.
We could probably make a list of the most well-rounded fighters, and some of them aren't even on this list, and that's fine. I think the pound for pound list should incorporate all of that. It should incorporate their records. It should incorporate their achievements. It should incorporate the fact that Amanda Nunez has defended 2 belts in 2 divisions, and nobody else, male or female, has done that, and she's still doing it. The fact that she's got the 4th longest reign in history matters. The fact that she's the first female fighter to even hold 2 belts, that all matters to me. And I think
agreed.
Because of all those, because of who she's beaten, the way she's beaten them, and all of her achievements, Amanda Nunez, in my opinion, is the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC right now.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He's lost his mind.
Number 1.
Let's put this all into perspective again, because we're going down the same road of differentiating opinions. Pound for pound, for me, like the definition of that is who would win if everyone was the same weight. That's what it means to me, because it's like who pound for pound matched who would win. Amanda Nunez isn't beating half the fighters that we've listed on, and it's down to caliber. It's down to caliber. It's down to caliber. No. But let me just say what I'm going to say. It's down to the same argument again. Caliber of opponent. That division that she's in, the people that she's fought, apart from Shevchenko and Cyborg, they wouldn't crack the top 15 in any of the men's divisions, not just because of their weight, but because the women's divisions are so young. It's going to take a while for the level of opponent to appear that we've got in the men's divisions. So she's the best right now, but she isn't beating the same like Dustin Poirier's kill list is better than Amanda Nunez's. It just is.
But the opportunity is there. Like if Nunez had the opportunity there, which she has done with the likes of Cyborg and Valentina, then she has beaten them, and these are world-class fighters.
Yes, but that's another if my granddad had wheels, he'd be a bike situation. It's like,
it's not because
the opposite.
What you're saying is if Amanda Nunez had all these good people in division, she'd win, but that's just a guess.
No, I'm saying that she has had these fights. Shevchenko, you're saying Shevchenko's not world class?
No, because I preface this whole thing by saying apart from Cyborg and Shevchenko.
Right, but nevertheless, she's still beaten them people, and like that's against your point.
I think there's disrespectful to the women's division as a whole to disregard the fact that, you know, Miesha Tate in 2016 was right at the top of the game when she beat Ronda Rousey was at the top of the game when she beat Raquel Pennington, Holly Holm, Jeraine Durandamy, Felicia Spencer, Megan Anderson.
It's not disrespectful. She's
beating the best in the world. She can't beat the opponents. She can only beat what's there in front of her, and she has.
Exactly. Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. But it's not disrespectful to say that a younger sport has weaker competition than an older sport. And whether or not you believe that it's disrespectful, women's MMA is much younger than men's MMA. There's less time for people to
Nunez, you've got to scale Nunez to that. And Nunez is in the bracket of a weaker, less developed league, division, not league. But she still shines like she shines. So she's still in the same category as all these women, but she's that much higher than them all.
Let me use another Hardy's analogy. Let me just use another Hardy's analogy, okay? Preston North End win every game in the championship. Arsenal, why have I used Arsenal? City win the league, but they lose 5 more than Preston North End. Are Preston better because they've won more? No, they're not, because they won it in the championship. That's my point.
But I'm assuming at some point in the 2 names, you would say we do put Amanda at 3. At some point in the next 2 names, you're going to pull out the name Kamaru Usman, surely. And I think Amanda Nunez's hit list is better than Kamaru Usman's hit list. I'm just going to put that out there.
That's a fair judgment. I'd probably disagree, but yeah, that's all I can say about Nunez. Listen, lads, we went through this. I think we've been through this before. And Ross put Shevchenko at 9th, so let's not even go.
Yeah,
Ross that's behind us. That's behind us.
Shevchenko's 5th, and Nunez is 4th on my whole pound-for-pound list. That's not disrespectful to the women's. That's just me saying that, like, that's me obviously acknowledging that those two are two of the best fighters alive, but they can't push 1st and 2nd because of the caliber of opponents. That's just how I feel about it.
All right, so what about Demetrius Johnson? Was he not one of the best in the world? Because even though he had a shit division behind him. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it is the same thing. And that was always a question in his reign. That always got brought up. And it was always a thing that I can...
So, go on then. What's your opinion on Demetrius Johnson then? One of the best to ever do it or not?
Probably one of the best flyweights, but that's another thin division, isn't it? So it's like, it's another division that's had very thin opponents in history. So it's the same as Nunez. Do you know what I mean? Like Nunez is one of the best. Ross, she's number 4. You're acting like she's not on my list. She's number 4.
So what's your top 3 then, George? Is it Usman, Adesanya, Nunez? Because it seems like that's what we need to decide.
It's Poirier, Adesanya, Usman. That's my 3-2-1.
Thing is with Poirier, something that I consider when I'm doing this is to be named one of the GOATs nowadays, you've got to be a double champ. And could Poirier move up and could he touch Usman? Do you know what I mean?
No, but he could go down and he could go down and he could beat Volk.
He could maybe beat Volk. Maybe.
Poirier, we've got Poirier.
He's fought anyway. Before.
We've got Poirier at 5 anyway. So the real question is, what order as long as we're all in agreement that the top 3 pound for pound are Amanda Nunez, Kamaru Usman, and Israel Adesanya. It's just a matter of which order they go in.
Usman's got to be number 1.
I can agree with that. I do have Nunez at the top of my list, but I have Usman at 2, and yeah, it was very close. But again,
so impressive.
And he gets more impressive every time we see him. He
gets better every time.
He's one of the best strikers in that division now, and that wasn't his game a couple of years ago. His jab is unbelievable. And yeah, his striking has just gone to a different level with Trevor Whitman. And obviously we saw that, the fact that he knocked out Jorge in the last fight. So yeah, I can get on board with Usman at 1, but I would like to see Amanda at 2. Not going to lie. We're talking about...
Adesanya has got to be 2, though. He's so slim off number 1. He's probably the most active champion we've seen in the longest time. And
Amanda's defending 2 belts at the same time. At the minute, she's defending both.
Once
belts.
Again, one of them has about 3 contenders in it, and the other one, it's a bit better.
He's fighting Kobe again. Has fought Masvidal twice.
Yeah, but they're world-class opponents. That is my gripe. That is my gripe with Amanda Nunez. She's 4 for me because every time she comes out to fight someone, every time, and you know this as well as I do, it's a written conclusion. We watch that fight to see how Amanda Nunez is going to win it because the opponents that she's facing don't give her the challenge. Whereas when Adesanya and Usman comes out, it's like, oh, this is amazing. I can't wait to see him fight Colby because that's great.
So by that logic, though, you're punishing her for being that much better than her competition. No one can touch her. Whereas, and you're rewarding Usman for the fact that he's closer in ability to his competition, which to me is the opposite. Because no one can touch Amanda, because she is so much better than everyone in that division, and she's proved it. And because every time she walks out to fight, it's about how she's going to win, and it's a foregone conclusion. It's the exact reason why she should be number 1 pound for pound, because nobody can touch her.
Right, but you're acting like fucking Muhammad Ali's coming out there and fighting her every week, and she's beating him. She's not. She's beating nobodies and people that get pushed. She's fighting
nobody's, mate. Megan Anderson, Felicia Spencer, Jermaine Durandamy, Holly Holm, Chris Cyborg, Raquel Pennington, Valentina, Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Valentina. That's a kill list. I don't think there's a better kill list than that in MMA today.
If you believe that any of those people, bar fucking Shevchenko and Cyborg, make it in any other UFC division, pound for pound, you're kidding yourself. That's how I feel.
Lad, you can't say that she's fighting nobodies, though. Surely.
I did say that.
Yeah, you actually backed that up, bro.
You stand by that? Amanda Nunes has fought nobody's.
She's fighting. She's picking. They're picking people from the division because there's not enough competition from her.
Yeah, because she's wiped them all out.
She's wiped them
Yeah,
out.
because it's relatively an easy division to be.
You can look at it from both ways though, because you've both got a really good point. Like, I appreciate what you're both saying. And
do you think these people that are fighting her are world class?
Yeah, fighters? Lads. Yes. That list that Adam just racked off, they are world class fighters. Yes.
Okay, Jermaine. We'll just.
Yeah. Have you seen what kickboxing title she's won? She's an unreal kickboxer, lad. Unreal.
Yeah. Well, I can't agree with what you're saying, but obviously we'll put Nunez number one there.
No, I think we could put Amanda number 2.
I think that's a fucking rip-off, but
Israel.
It's not even about
Israel number 3, Amanda number 2, Kamaru number 1 works for me.
See, this is where I've included Jones at the top, and I've kept him at number 1.
Well, tell me why you put Jones at number 1, because obviously me and George both kind of admitted him from the top of the list, and obviously
it was tough. It was tough because obviously he's not active. We don't really know what's happening with him, and there's a lot of greyness around his name in there, just with all the steroids. So it's a bit, I was either going all or nothing with him. I'm putting him at the top because he's the GOAT in my eyes, or he don't make the list at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I said about him being a pussy before.
But yeah, just do I even have to back up what Jones has done, who he's beat? When he was what was he, 21 or 23 when he won the belt? He was beating the likes of Shogun, Vitor.
Let's list off the people he's beat. Let's list off some of the people he's beat, lad.
Bear in mind,
USADA, his wife.
Yeah.
Oh God,
stripper.
He didn't beat USADA. To be fair, USADA 10-8.
Thing is though, the guys that he was beating when he was young, that's when USADA was around, or wasn't around. Yeah. Sorry. So Vitor, to be fair, that armbar that Vitor had him in, brutal. But that just shows, mate. And his wrestling is. He out wrestled DC. Who does that?
Yeah.
Who out wrestles Daniel Cormier? And that's just one aspect of his game. His jiu-jitsu's up there as well with the best. He's striking.
I feel like we forget that he also tapped out Ryan Bader.
Say that again. I think I just lost.
I was coughing. That's why. His record is ridiculous. I forgot that he tapped out Ryan Bader as well back in the day.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
Unbeaten as well. Leo Machida, Rampage Jackson, Shogun Rua. So we've got DC twice. Gustafsson.
Yeah, but none of them have got anything on Jermaine Durand. I mean,
Rashad Evans, Chael Sonnen,
Govin St. Preux.
Yeah,
Thiago Santos, Reyes.
I mean, what I had written down in my notes, and I think it was quite apt point to make, is if it wasn't for John Jones would be a lot higher on this list.
Yeah.
But because of John Jones, I don't see how we can realistically, today speaking, put him at number 1.
If he was active, though, I was just saying, if he was active and he was still as active as ever, where would he go on your list?
I'm just saying, lad, he'd never, ever, ever beat Aspen, lad, Holm, Pena, or Pennington, lad, or Misha Tate, lad. Fuck no.
Right,
He'd never be any of them.
Adam.
Pound for pound, he'd get smoked in that division.
You could do. You never know. You never know.
You're laughing at yourself because you have at least me and Ross have both got him in our list. You've not even put him in your list.
Yeah, I made my reasons for not putting him in the list. He's not active. He's a drug cheat and an abuser, and he's probably never going to fight again. So why would I put him in the list?
That's why I put him at 10 because, in my opinion, we'll probably never see him fight again. So that's
what I mean. So it's pointless putting him in a pound for pound list. He's not a fighter. He's an ex-fighter.
He's not officially no, it's not because It's not.
No. Listen to this.
George Hardy's analogies have been horrendous today.
Chuck fought Tito more recently than Jones' last fight, didn't he?
Yeah, but
no, surely not. Surely the Reyes fight was Feb 2020.
Google it
I'm
right
just
now.
looking. I'm just googling it now, to be honest, because we might as well pack up and go home if that's true. November 2018 was Ortiz.
With that said, Chuck Liddell, number one.
Ortiz,
number two.
Good night. Can we please? I want to talk about our bets for this weekend. So can we please? Even if we have to settle on Amanda at 3, which I hate, to be honest, but even if we have to, can we settle on this top 3? Are we all agreed that Kamaru Usman's number 1 then?
Yeah.
So
if I'm not putting Jones, Usman, and then
Ross, I'm going to ask you, have you missed Adesanya from your list or something? How have you not got him in there?
No, he's 4th.
Oh, he's 4th. So who have you missed?
Without Jones, he's 3rd.
Right.
Nunez second then. So
Nunez is 2nd. Yeah.
Right, I think that's.
Does that mean I'm outvoted then?
I think you've been outvoted, mate. Yeah.
Cool,
so
she's just done more. I feel like she's done more than Adesanya has for now.
Yeah, I think Israel can definitely. We could get there at some point, but this is the list. Then, are you ready for me to read it back?
Yeah.
Number 1, Kamaru Usman. Number 2, Amanda Nunez. Number 3, Israel Adesanya. Number 4, Valentina Shevchenko. Number 5, Dustin Poirier. Number 6, Alexander Volkanovski. Number 7, Max Holloway. Number 8, Francis Ngannou. Number 9, Rose Namajunas. Number 10, Stipe Miocic. Honourable mentions for the likes of Robert Whittaker, John Jones, Jan Blachowicz. Any other honourable mentions we missed there?
I've got a few.
Chandler,
Moreno, Colby. Jermaine
Durandamine, Misha Tate, Kel Pennington, Holly Holm, Aspen Ladd, Sarah McCann.
Just the fact that you're taking the piss out of them, I can't believe you don't think they're good opponents.
Disrespect.
I'm just stirring the pot now, lads. I'm just saying it because it's funny. Just saying it.
No, I know you are, but. No, I know you're still just saying, but your point still stands that you think the bums.
No, but I was trying to make a point about how I've said it many times, but I think it's all about the caliber of opponent you're fighting, and I don't think they are the same caliber as. But there's no point going over this again. So I'll go for my honourable mentions, then we'll do Ross, then we'll do Adam. For me, I've got it's going to be Rose, Moreno, Colby, Gaethje, Oliveira, Chandler, Yan, and Garn.
Yeah, I'll tee on all of them because I think they all could feel slightly aggrieved not to make like 9 or 10. So it's stiff competition. Yeah. So I'll be honest, lad, that was difficult for me to put together 10. I can see why the UFC stick to a men's and a women's ranking because it was tough.
It didn't used to be though.
Did it? Used to be combined. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You've always got to say that one slot for Conor McGregor as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Oh, he was there for so long. I had my honourable mentions. Don't even mention Piotr Jan.
Oh, that's a good,
Did you say Jan? Yeah.
I
had Covington, Gaethje, Whaley, Whittaker, Oliveira.
Oliveira as well, mate.
And Jan.
Yeah, Oliveira. Chandler as well. I got
Chandler could get,
let's see what he does next, though, against Gaethje.
Right, that's our top 10, boys.
Better than Oliveira, but let's not go into that.
That's our top 10 done. We need to move on and wrap up some bets for this weekend's card. I think UFC Vegas 40 this weekend, main evented by Aspen Ladd against Norma Dumont. Obviously, Aspen Ladd, we spoke about earlier in the show, missed weight a couple of weeks ago at 135, now steps up to 145 for the first time to take on Dumont on short notice. The betting odds at the minute, 8-11, Ladd the favourite at the minute, which... Is that a bit surprising given that she's a bit of an unknown quantity at 145?
No, I wouldn't say it. No, I'd say she should be the favourite just through Dumont's only had 3 fights in the UFC. Yeah. So I can see why Aspen Ladd is the favourite for sure.
But given that obviously everything that's gone on with Ladd in the last few weeks, George, in terms of missing weight and those issues, she shouldn't have an issue making weight at 145 pounds. But do we think she'll be, in prime form given everything that's been going on the last few weeks?
So, yeah, I do think there should be harsher treatment for people that miss weight. Personally,
she didn't just miss it by a few pounds as well. I'm pretty sure she missed it by like 6 or 7 pounds, didn't she? So
precisely. So it's like she didn't even try. I've never cut weight, and I know it's a hard thing.
Or she physically can't cut to 135 pounds, maybe anymore.
Yeah. So if you'd like that, I mean, I've always been on the side of having like a percentage you can cut. But that's a completely different conversation. We should probably save for a different podcast about weight cutting. But no, I agree with Ross. Aspen Ladd's probably my favourite going into it. She did just come off a knockout victory, which was pretty impressive. And then before that, I think she'd lost. I think if I can remember correctly,
Jermaine Durandamy knocked her out. So
the goat.
So is this Aspen we're talking about?
Yeah. And then before that, she got a dub. I mean, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say with these. Like you said, she's a bit of an unknown entity. She seems to be pretty good. But then so's Dumont is also an unknown entity that seems pretty good. So it's a hard one to call. My money's going on Aspen Ladd. What about you?
Dumont obviously coming into this one on 2 wins. I think a fairly impressive win against Felicia Spencer last time out. It was a close fight, but she was impressive in that, and she obviously took the decision. It was a split decision. And her fight before that was Ashley Evans-Smith, and her first fight in the UFC was a loss to Megan Anderson, who obviously just saw lose fairly convincingly to Valentina.
Another goal.
Yeah. Do you just surely Dumont must? I think Dumont looks like value to me in this. She's fought 145 before. She'll be better suited to the weight than I think Ladd will. And yeah, Ladd's just a bit of an unknown quantity to me. Ross, do you sticking with Ladd given what we've seen from her at 135?
I'm going. Yeah, my money's on Ladd, but Dumont. I don't know if you've seen her in the clinch. She's fucking strong, man. If she can get hold of Aspen Ladd, maybe she can get her to the ground and she can employ some of her. She's got brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I think Aspen Ladd's on a purple belt, so we might be quite evenly matched on the ground. But from what I've seen, Dumont looks really strong, especially considering she's quite a small person. But yeah, Ladd's got more experience. 3 of the last 5 fights have been won by KO. She seems very well-rounded. Striking's pretty sharp. So I'm going to go with Aspen Ladd for the win.
Okay, so we're for the first time in about the last hour of recording, we're in agreement then in terms of Aspen Ladd. So we can have a look at the second fight, second fight from the top of the card, which is Andrei Arlovski and Carlos Felipe at heavyweight. We were talking a few weeks ago, George, about gatekeepers and who the biggest gatekeeper was in the UFC, and surprisingly, Arlovski's name didn't come forward. Maybe it should have done.
I don't know. He's a legend. He's a bloody legend. Put some.
Yeah, I agree.
42, isn't he?
What'd you say, Ross?
He's like 42, isn't he? He's still kicking.
Yeah, he's a bloody legend. Carlos Felipe is on a bit of a roll. He's won his last 3 fights. They are by
there's 21 losses for Arlovski. That was my point. Sorry, 31 wins, 20 losses. That was more my point.
Yeah. He's been around the block. He usually loses by getting his chin licked off. And Felipe's not really a chin licker. He wins. He wins by decision. He's a good fighter. He's a good striker. But I don't know. Unless Arlovski's lost a step, I don't know if Felipe's got the hands to stop him. But we equally could be seeing the end of Arlovski's career, and we know fighters towards the end of their career, they usually go on a bit of a skid. We could be seeing that skid right now. I mean, he did win his last fight, a decision again. I'm actually going to make a bold prediction here. I think it's going to go to decision. I think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be very boring, and Arlovski's going to just edge out a split decision.
Interesting, because the betting odds are really close at the minute. It's Arlovski 10-11, Felipe 5-6. So it is, the bookies are finding it quite difficult to call as well.
Yeah.
I was on the same page as you, George, thinking that it might go to the judges, but I was leaning a bit more towards Felipe in that case, because I think he might do better work just on the ground in the clinch than Arlovski. Yeah, you may be right. He doesn't have the hands necessarily to stop Arlovski, but I think he could do better work in and around the striking as well. So I think, yeah, I'm edging towards a Felipe decision, and I've got him in some multiples as well that I'll talk about later. Ross, what about you? Arlovski, Felipe, where are you leaning?
Yeah, well, I think looking at a lot of Felipe's fights, he loves to throw that 1-2, that jab straight, or it's like like an overhand almost, and he throws it a lot, and it does damage when he lands. Don't get me wrong, but I think Arlovski's experience and the amount of time. What was his record? Sorry, I've not noted that down.
Arlovski,
31-20.
31-20, yeah. 31 wins, 20 losses.
He's had a lot of fights. As I said before, he's 42 years old. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. A lot of I can imagine he's got a good fight IQ, and I think he might be able to grab hold of Felipe. And obviously he's known for his wrestling in Arlovski. I think it's going to be a decision win for Arlovski. I think he'll be able to counter that 1-2 and get hold of him and control him probably.
Okay, so you're both going against me there. I don't mind that. I don't mind taking you on this weekend in that one. I just fancy Felipe, and I've put him in a couple of multiples, as I mentioned, but I'll touch on them at the end. We've got 6 minutes. So let's do this quick. Jim Miller, Eric Gonzalez. I think it's an interesting one. I've got another bet to pick out here. How do you see this one? Miller, 4-9 favorite at the minute. Gonzalez, 7-4. Complete opposite end of the spectrum. I think Jim Miller will equal the record for most UFC appearances of all time this weekend with 38. And Gonzalez is making his first walk in the UFC. Do you think experience is going to be a key factor in this one?
I think Jim Miller is going to take it. I think he's going to take it via submission. As you said, I think experience is going to come into it. Jim Miller's got 16 losses, but have you seen the caliber of fighters that he's losing to? He's lost to Nate, Poirier, Benson, Donald Cerrone, Chiesa, Pettis, and Hooker, and obviously more names. He's lost 16 fights, but he's losing them against like some of the best ever. And as I said, it's Eric's debut, is it?
It's his UFC debut, yeah. Yeah,
it's his UFC debut. Obviously he's not really beaten anyone that we know of, or that I know of at least.
Difficult one to bet on.
It is, because you don't really know what he's like. I've watched a bit of his footage. Didn't really jump out at me, to be honest with you. I think Jim Miller's got the experience. He knows what he's doing, and he's been in there with the best of them. And he's lost, but
one of the things that stood out for me, George, when looking at Gonzalez, just doing some research on Gonzalez before this, was these obvious 3 losses. He's lost 2 by submission. And I think Jim Miller's got 17 wins in the UFC via submission. So I'd pulled out Miller to win this one via submission at 9-4. Does that look like a good betting line to you?
That is exactly the prediction that I made, to be fair, lads. We've agreed again. I think, I love a bit of Jim Miller. He's a legend, isn't he? He's a legend in the game. Another Arlovski figure. Been around forever. Fought some of the best of the best. Never had the most exciting fighting style, but he's always been in some scraps. I probably expect him to get it done by submission as well, but it's one of them where it's a bit of an unknown entity again. We don't know how Eric's going to come in. He could be fucking best in the world. So it's the safe bet is Miller, because we've seen it before. Obviously we know he can submit people, and we know Gonzalez can get submitted. You just never know. But the safe bet is Miller. That's why I would put my money on if I was to tell you to do anything.
Yeah, so I'm going
agreement on that one. Then.
Yeah, we're all Jim Miller 9-4 for submission. We can all lock that on the spreadsheet as the same bet. So at least we'll be watching intently for the Jim Miller Eric Gonzalez fight. I've picked out a few other bets for you lads, if you will. I don't know if you've picked any out for me in return. One of the other fights on the card is Manon Foray in the women's division. Obviously, she's coming in with a lot of hype. She's on a 7-win streak, 6 of those coming by KO. She's a really good striker. She landed sort of 8 strikes per minute. She's never been taken down in the UFC. And her opponent, Bueno, she absorbs 5 strikes per minute, which is 2 more than Furry, and she's never landed a takedown in the UFC. So I'm fairly confident that this one's going to be a bit of a stander and banger, possibly Furry to get an early knockout. So I've gone Furry inside the distance here at 6-5. And I've also included her in a couple of multiples. So I've gone for Furry, Jim Miller, Carlos Felipe, Julian Marquez, who's also on the main card, and Ariane Carnelossi, who's the first fight on the night. I've also pulled this one out. She's fighting Nunez. I forget Nunez's first name. Obviously, it's not Amanda. But her opponent, it's her UFC debut, which is obviously big anyway, but she's not fought since July 2018. She's been out for 2 years with a doping suspension, and she's never fought in the UFC. So to me, that was why I pulled out Carnelossi in that 5-fold. That comes in at 7.74 to 1. So nice bit of value. And just last one was a bit of a shorter treble, was Furry, Jim Miller and Marquez to win. Brings you out a nice 2-1 bet there as well. So lads, you got any final bets for us?
I was just betting on top 3.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam, I was betting on top 3, but you've sold me on Manon Furry. I'm going to chuck her on.
Inside the distance at 6-5? Or do you just want the win outright?
No, yeah, it's inside the distance. Yeah, you made a great point about how much she gives out and how much she absorbs and how much Silver absorbs. And the takedown, that's going to, the takedown stats, that's going to come into it, I think. Well, maybe not come into it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If you will.
It's not going to come into it. Yeah. Okay, so that's us. Yeah. We're fresh out of time on episode 3. Thanks for being here, Jordan Ross. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you are listening, follow us on socials, on Twitter, Octagon_odds, same on Instagram, Octagon Odds on Facebook, Octagon Odds on YouTube. Give us a like, review wherever you are listening. It really helps other people find us, and it's very much appreciated. Good luck with your bets on Saturday night, lads. We'll be back here next week to preview a massive card. We're looking at Costa against Vettori next week, isn't it, lads? So, and then that kicks off a huge run of cards that we've got coming up. October, November is massive, mate. We're going to have such a good time. Looking forward to those.
We're going to be busy.
The Randomine in Pennington, UFC 269 headline.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to our argument, guys, and we will see you on next week's show.
Don't forget the Ross Shevchenko 9. See you later.
Remember, bet responsibly.
Yeah, please gamble responsibly. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.